Hello again and welcome back to Insights with Chipo. Now this is a continuation of the first part of my video on Nigerian husbands that kill their wives, which I had to cut short last time, unfortunately, as my daughter and her friends could not stop bombing it. They kept doing everything possible to ruin my video, but luckily for them, it wasn't their input actually that ruined it, it was the wind, I didn't realize how windy it was outside because the sun was so hot on that day that it distracted me from the, effect of the wind, which ended up messing up the audio quality of the first video quite a bit. So I do apologize for that. I only discovered how bad it was after I had uploaded it, okay? Well, anyway, you can't have it all perfect all the time. So my sincere apologies again for the poor audio quality of the first video, all right? Now, coming back to what I was saying in the first part of my video about the element of prolonged provocation that some husbands are confronted with in a broken down marriage, where their ex-wives leave them with practically nothing after a divorce. You see, we have to understand that provocation can become a prolonged one for any man that finds himself in such a position as this, when his wife calls the police on him during a squabble and under the threat of going to jail. He's then forced to leave the house for her, virtually empty-handed, and in some cases, he's even deported, allowing the woman to, now sit back and enjoy the wealth he amassed all alone or with her new lover while he now becomes destitute and is forced to start all over again. And when you think about it, all you can say is all for what? If you were put in that kind of a situation, every day would become an unrelenting, I like to say Groundhog Day, an unrelenting Groundhog Day for any man or even for any woman if it was, turned the other way around. Yes, it would become that way. And sweet goodness me, that thought alone hurts. I mean, it hurts me even to think about it. If I was put in that kind of a position, how much more, me as a woman feeling that way, how much more a man? Any man would be constantly provoked by the thought of the fact that the woman he called wife used him for as many years as the marriage lasted. He would also be constantly provoked by the thought of the fact that, protected by the law, she's now going about living her life with his life achievements as the gold mine she hit from divorcing him. Think about that. It's painful. I mean, it's just so painful. Now, as much as I'm really grateful for the women-friendly legal system and the provisions of the court that protects the rights of women from spousal violence, I believe, however, that this same system could be potentially working against women and indirectly causing their murders too in certain circumstances, okay? Now, I'm sorry if you don't entirely agree with what I'm saying on this, but it is my opinion, and let me further explain. Why I'm saying this is that I'm going to say this to put this into perspective of my argument today, okay? You see, these laws in place are not there to be used by women, in this case African women, to abuse the African identity, culture and values that many of us from Africa already have, okay? And grew up with, okay? That's not the idea, because these laws were never intended to be that way. Now, these laws are there to enhance our value systems and our African identity when necessary. And then in cases of genuine spousal violence, to adequately punish any offenders, all right? Now, one of the 12 maxims of law, sorry, I've studied law, so I always come up with this. One of the 12 maxims of law says, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. But unfortunately, many of these women don't come with clean hands. The ones who accuse their husbands, they don't come with clean hands, They come and they want to dissolve the marriage and they cite some truly flimsy or fake reason, So they're definitely not coming with clean hands. And the courts would not usually accord the background stories of these couples too much weight when given a decree nisi in favor of the wives, seeking it for their personal enrichment. They know fully well that they only married these men. I mean, these wives, they know fully well that they only married these men just to come abroad, have him pay their way for them through school, give them children and a comfortable life, and perhaps get them good jobs through his connections or influence, and then get rid of him. Yet, they act like complete victims before the courts when seeking a divorce. And because they know how effective the laws on domestic violence against women is, they know how effective those laws are, they abuse it by taking advantage of its protective provisions to falsely accuse their husbands of abuse just to get them out of the way or out of the house. And in that way, they set in motion their plan to divorce these men and take over all they own. Listen, I know what I'm saying because I've done a thorough research on this, and I've had many conversations with both men and women who share this view as well. And you know, not too long ago, I even watched 3 videos of false domestic violence cases that were caught, all caught on camera by the husbands who, sensing what their wives were up to, immediately started recording the squabble they were having, just to protect themselves from the potential accusations of these women. I mean, honestly, it was shocking to watch. I mean, thinking back at what I saw and how the women were behaving, you know, it was shocking to watch everything they were doing. They were all caught on camera, either beating themselves up or throwing themselves down on the floor and screaming for help into the phone in their hands. They had a phone in their hand, screaming down that phone with a 911 operator on the other end. And all of this was in a bid to build false evidence of abuse that never happened, just to support their grounds for divorce later. Imagine what would have been the fate of these men if they hadn't had any evidence to prove the contrary. Just imagine that. I mean, it is so evil. I tell you, it is really evil to behave like that. You know, I used to think women who try to frame up their husbands with false allegations of beatings and battery, or that, you know, they had a good reason, but it's just bad. It's evil. You never have a reason to do that, regardless of what you've gone through. It's just bad. You can't try to revenge in that kind of a way. And you know what's even more annoying? The fact that these women are able to do all this confidently because they know the usual outcome of such an allegation. They've either been coached by another woman who successfully got rid of her own husband that way, or they're being influenced by the bad company of other women who have done it that way as well. Who knows, you know? These women know that once they call the police and make an allegation, the ball is set rolling. So it's no wonder that a man who then finds himself already caught in the web of consequences of such an allegation, a man who has lost everything as a result of it and now feels abandoned by the justice system and with nothing more to lose, can snap and decide that it would be better to just kill the woman instead of sitting back and watching her take away his life achievements. Oh yeah, a terrible decision, of course, but it can not, I mean, it's terrible and cannot be justified, you know, but a man that is insane or made insane will do insane things. And this brings me to the question that boggles my mind every time I realize that these 10 women that were all murdered by their husbands for the same kind of reason must have at one time, while they were still alive, heard about the murder of one of them and should have seen that as a forewarning of what could easily happen to them when dealing with an unhinged husband or ex-husband. I mean, they must have thought that if steps were not taken to diffuse the ticking bomb that had been created by a divorce or separation, they must have seen that something bad was going to happen. Did they not see that coming? I mean, bad news travels fast. They must have heard somehow that another Nigerian woman again, and a nurse like them, had been murdered, yet again by an estranged husband. And they must have drawn a parallel to their own situation. Why didn't that kind of like move them to seek some sort of solution? You know, I really can't help but ask myself this question all the time, because I know that if it had been me in those circumstances that they had all been in, I would have feared for my life every single day. Especially if I know that I had unjustly caused him, that's my ex-husband, you know, the man I left. If I had caused him to lose everything he had ever worked for, or I took it all from him, I would have been afraid for my life every day. Honestly, I would have been afraid. Honestly, I would have. And you know, there was one thing all of these men kept saying as justification for murdering their wives. They kept saying things like, she destroyed my life, she ruined my life, she took everything from me. Sadly, they were all convinced that only death could atone for the pain the continued existence of their wives was bringing them. It's really sad. I just think about it and it breaks my heart. You know, I hear people say things like, behind every bad woman, there's a man who made her that way. And they say this sometimes in a bid to justify why many good and loving women suddenly become acrimonious and go all the way out to pay men back in their own coin. They throw all caution and all good manners and morals to the wind just to punish their cheating husbands by taking them to the cleaners through a divorce. And at the end of it all, we have no winners, just losers and grieving orphaned children. So this is what I would like to say to everyone out there on the brink of marrying someone just to come abroad. Please, ladies, be sure you love them first and foremost before accepting their marriage proposal. If you know you don't love them, please let them be. You don't have to go abroad to make it. No, you don't. You can stay right where you are and still make it in life. Even better than those who have married a spouse who lives abroad. And if you do love him and accept, be sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. And don't just leap out in desperation calling it faith. That's not a faith leap, okay? Foolish steps are no steps of faith. All right? It's better to be single and happy and alive than married, depressed, and dead. And as for the wives who are already in a marriage with a brother that brought them over, please let the fear of God guide you and direct all your actions and emotions. I say emotions for a reason. I'll get to that. Let it direct your emotions as you work towards eventually becoming a working class wife by the grace of God to support your family. Be faithful to your husband and continue building your home with him even after your income becomes more than his. Very important, okay? If he has always been a good husband to you and has made sacrifices to ensure you make it abroad, wherever you are now, call it to mind in those moments of heated arguments and let it help guide you or guide your actions towards him and your responses to him also. Respect and honor the process you've both been through to get to where you are now. All right? Because, whether you like it or not, your financial freedom is not financial superiority over your husband. I said that. And remember that money is not everything. It's a terrible betrayal for a man to start building a future with you, and after he has paid your way through school, you turn your back on him or you start cheating on him because you're doing better than he is now. Be wise. Be wise, sisters. Let's just be wise, please. All right? And please stop calling the police. This is very important. Stop calling the police for your husbands if he has not been violent towards you. The police are not marriage counselors, for God's sake. You don't need them interfering in your marital issues if the man isn't hitting you or abusing you and the kids in any way, okay? You don't need police intervention for things, simple things, all right? The police have no business in your personal domestic squabbles at home just because you're angry or arguing with your husband because you found out that he was cheating on you, for example, or because he didn't tell you before sending money back home to his sick mother. And for you, the men, I'll come to you now. For you, my brothers, please, your wife is not your business investment. Hear it again. She's not your business investment. So if you have that mindset, you better delete it now. Delete it. You are both in a marriage to contribute towards a success together and not to use each other in any way, okay? So she's not your business investment regardless of how much you spent on her. And also stop cheating. God, stop cheating. Stop cheating on good women, for goodness sake. Many of the broken homes or destroyed homes we have now, if traced back, have their roots in infidelity and disrespect of the woman in the house. So please love and give your wife the respect due to her and stop abusing her commitment and loyalty to you. Doesn't take much for a woman to love and commit, and when she does, she'll give you everything, okay? Both of you are involved or should be involved in the way you manage your finances. So please stop this African mentality, men, of sending money back home to your family without letting your wife know for what and to whom. After all, it's your money and her money too, and she deserves to know what you're doing with it, okay? And you telling her about it is not you seeking her approval, if that's what you're thinking. So get that thought out of your mind. You're just sharing with your wife. And it's not disrespectful to her. She needs to know. It's transparency, okay? You are the man and she's your wife, and both of you together are a unit. So accountability is very important for the success of your marriage, okay? And if you're a lazy husband, I'm coming to you now. Listen, if you're a lazy husband freeloading off your wife, dude, your dignity and pride is at stake. You're not only embarrassing yourself as a man, but reducing yourself in the sight of your wife and your families. And you're also setting yourself up for shame and the disrespect you so hate, because I know men hate to be disrespected, but that's what you're attracting. It's inevitable that the careless way you treat your marriage and your wife today will backfire on you eventually. And one way or the other, you'll be the losers. You will be the loser who is angry, frustrated, and looking for revenge when she starts paying you back. So clean up your act, brothers. Clean it up. Clean up your act, brothers. You know where all the loopholes are. Tie them, okay? At least now you know the 10 similar stories of the way things could end for you if you don't act right. Just like the stories of these other brothers who failed in their marriages and ultimately have paid or are paying a terrible price for it. Let it be a motivation for you to do better today. All right? So guys, I'm done. This has been a long topic, Thank you all for watching and listening today. I'd encourage your contributions towards this very controversial topic. What are your thoughts about this in general? So guys, thank you so much again for tuning in. If you like the video, please don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe. And after you subscribe, you should see a bell symbol appear. Click on that so you can get a notification each time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I hope you enjoyed everything you heard, and I hope everything I've said made sense. If it didn't, like I said, leave a comment, okay? I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you are, and God bless you. Bye.